So we're going to be talking about how do you, our customer guests, go about embracing the user experience, the multiple experience, multiple media, the customer experience, and the employee experience to truly embrace a total experience and deliver it in today's experience economy. We would contend it's, and talking to my customers here, we would contend it's about how you make customers and employees feel to deliver and reinforce their advocacy. So, before we go into a few key questions, I'll start on my far left. How are you? Introduce yourself and your company, please.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Hey everybody, I'll be Karim, DATAMARK's engineering manager. DATAMARK is a BPO company. We've been in business for 30 plus years, serviced Fortune 1000 companies with contact center, interpretation services, and other back office work. I really like to pride ourselves on account governance, flexible contracting, and our length of partnerships. One thing, our statement, if you will, really like to say we're big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Nice to meet you all, and thanks for attending.
Excellent.
I'm Croft. I'm the CEO of Advanced Call Center Technologies, also known as ACT. We've been around since 1997. Built a business entirely organically. We're about 12,000 agents today. We're BPO. Top companies and partners of ours in a multitude of industries, financial services, healthcare, telecom, retail, etc. Located in the U.S., near shore primarily, and happy to be here and excited to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, which is the total experience, and ultimately what we really focus on in our business as well as a great experience.
Thank you. So there will be time for questions from the audience, but first of all I'm going to pose a few questions to our panelists up here. And you can see with the logo, this is something we at Avaya have done considerable research on, and we are focusing our efforts and our innovation, our delivery, and our messaging on truly delivering the total experience, which we believe that unless you encompass everything in the outer rings, you're not going to deliver that total experience. So, first question. We'll start with Hunter, without you last time. Hunter, do you agree with the statement? If so, why? And also, if not, why not?
Well, yes, I completely agree. In fact, as a company, we've been focused on the total experience for a long time. It's interesting, though, as we've evolved over the past 20 years, too. The lingo has changed a little bit. But we've taken it to another level, right? I mean, we can go into every layer of the onion with people we're hiring today and what they're expecting, people that have been working with us 20 years and what they're expecting, the technology and the changes. But really what we're talking about is ultimately, as you pull all that together, the ability to deliver an overall experience that we're seeking. And for us, it starts with the employee. We're an employee-owned company, so ultimately it dovetails really nicely with many of our philosophies that it's important to us and in fact our employee owners. It goes through the technology we utilize to bring things together to make it easier for our employees to service the customer and to communicate, which is always at the foundation of our success, great communication. And then to the ways we service those customers, various channels, etc. So for our business, it starts with that employee, the experience they have. And for those of you who are either in the BPO space or not, I have this conversation all the time. You can map out a process map of how to do something. So say, go to a restaurant, get a menu and a drink of water. Okay, that's the process. but the experience can be completely different. I can go to a restaurant, someone drops 5 menus in front of me and drops down 5 glasses of water and walks away and says, I'll be back. And we've met the process. Or I can go to another restaurant and be guided to the table by a great hostess, introduced in a warm handoff to a server who individually hands us menus, tells us what's on the menu, what's great about the menu, and recommends pairings for the chef. Both met the procedure. One completely failed on the experience. So ultimately, when we talk about this, these are the kind of examples we give around delivering for our employees, delivering for our customer, and tying them together and making sure that when we map out processes, that the overlay of that process, we're mapping out the employee experience. So we have the entire layout in our business of what we expect employees to experience when they onboard, when they call a help desk, when they call HR, when they engage with their supervisor. We're looking for experiences, and we're driving those experiences through the expectations we set and going down to the very detail of what we expect, how that engagement is going to occur, what tools are being utilized, and ultimately measuring it through those critical touch points by putting in an experience survey. And it becomes embedded in our business. And it's the same thing we've been doing. How many of you have mapped out a customer experience journey? It is the same exact approach, and ultimately to be successful, to be successful, you have to have that evangelist in your business.
Yes, absolutely. And Cantor, I totally agree. Total experience is absolutely critical. I think in today's day and age, your restaurant example is perfect, but in today's day and age, all of us have so many choices in all the different services that we ask for. So, cell phone provider, AT&T. If you don't like their service, you're never going to go back, right? Ever. And it's very, very important to deliver a memorable total experience to your end customer, to your employee, or whoever it may be. Because if you don't, they're going to leave. I remember my first day on the job at DATAMARK. One thing that I think differentiates us as a company. I remember my first day on the job. Who remembers their first day? Right? You're nervous, you're apprehensive. Nervous as me on stage right now, right? And you walk in, and I remember walking in, and I was like, man, am I in the right place? So I saw all this company or partner branding on the wall. Employees had the partner swag, coffee mug, and everything. People walking in, I was like, man, am I in the right company right now? Did I show up to the right building? And I think being an extension of the partner brand really goes a long way to deliver a total experience. Your employees feel like, hey, I'm a part of this brand. I'm the first person that somebody's going to talk to when they talk to this company, right? So total experience is very, very important, and totally agree with Chris.
Thank you. Great answers, guys. Thank you. So you kind of alluded to it, but you kind of didn't. So maybe I will start with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Do you actually have a formal total experience program? If you do, tell us about it. If you don't, what would it look like for you?
Sure. So, total experience program, absolutely. DATAMARK has quite a few different partners, right? And Paul, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but total experience is your customer experience and user experience. What do you feel, or what do you do when you have that experience with the company? Your employee experience, how do they feel? Are they rewarded? Are they gamified? Things like that. And the multi-experience, what technology is there? Right. And so a total experience program, absolutely. Just to speak to some of the total experience programs we've done recently, instead of going through 6,000 lines of what technologies we offer and everything, I figured a story would be a little better. So we partner with the top interpretation services partners or companies. Right? We provide language interpretation across the globe, 35 plus languages, right? And let's say that you're an agent. It's a Wednesday morning, you're clocking into your job. Put yourself in their shoes. You grab your coffee, you clock in, and you're ready for your first call for video interpretation. Accept the call, and you look to your left, there's a doctor. You look to your right, there's a mother about to give birth. That is a shock, right? If you're an agent, you're like, oh my God, I have to give interpretation to a doctor and a mother. Right? That's intense. You don't even need copy anymore. Yeah, right? And so I'm telling this story because the birth was successful. Our agent handled the interaction very well. Everything. It was a really beautiful experience. Right? Giving birth is a beautiful experience for all the mothers in there. What I'm getting to is 3 weeks later we get a piece of mail to our office and we open it. And it's from the mother. And the mother says, thank you so much, as Esmeralda, the agent's name. Thank you so much, Esmeralda. You helped me in this foreign country. I was so nervous to give birth here. And you interpreted everything for me. It was a special moment, right? And she sent pictures of the baby I held with the mother. It was so special. And so that is, to me, what a total experience is about. Through a multi-experience and a user experience, we gave technology, video interpretation live to a doctor, to a mother about to give birth. And through an employee experience, our employee felt fulfilled. They felt successful. Like, if I'm the agent and I walk through that, after that call, I need a break. I'm tired, right? And 3 weeks later, we get a picture in the mail of the mother, and it's a happy moment, right? And from a customer experience, of course, the mother's happy, maybe at home and everything. So, that to me is a total experience right there. Technology, employee happy, customer happy, everyone's happy.
Great example, thank you.
Yeah.
Hunter, I know from what you said you have a program, but let's just describe it for us.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, we have a total experience program. I'm going to take you through it from the vantage point that we look at it. What we do have is an employee experience journey. We looked at the entire employee experience, the entire journey, and we mapped out the critical touch points in that journey. And by mapping out, what we're saying is that map sometimes for people to know stuff like your workflow. When I say map out, what we're doing is we're detailing what the experience should be first. So it could be anything. Let's just say onboarding. During onboarding, I want that potential candidate to, number one, feel like they're out of business, that is going places, growing, subject matter expert in what they do, ultimately leading to confidence that they're making a good decision with a career in us. So it's just some simple things. Once you establish the experience you're looking for, then it drives the real tactical approach to delivering the experience. So once you've established that, now if someone's having a difficult time applying for a job because they're doing it from home and it's a systemic issue, it requires you to find a solution. It requires you to make it easy. It requires you to make it intuitive, etc. And then when you start looking at that subject matter expertise component of it, well, how do we demonstrate the subject matter expertise to someone who comes into the business? Well, number one, if they come to our call center versus work from home environment, then we're going to give them a tour. And on that tour, we're going to relate experiences that have been walked through. We know what we're going to say, just like you do with your customer. And we give that person the experience of, I didn't know how to do this before, I do now, and here's where we're going with it. And here's what I've added personally. This is what it meant for me in my business. So you continue down that path, and as your leadership team, ultimately what it drives is a complete look at all the components of delivering a great employee experience, right down to the first call they take. Disparate systems, disparate communication platforms are not conducive to a great experience for your employee. So we need to solve that because ultimately we deal with frustration, anxiety. I believe you mentioned that. A great example anxiety, frustration. Well, we have to address that. It's going to come out in our employee experience scores. It's going to force us to solve for, okay, I've got customers calling in, I've got an employee frustrated because they got disparate systems that aren't functioning. I can give you an example, a telecom company, we were handling inbound sales support calls. And there was frustration on both sides of that. The salesperson calling into my agent for help was frustrated because there was a lot of repeat information that had to be exchanged. And our agent was frustrated because they had to go through that same process. The salesperson was pushing them, hurry up. There was a lot of unhappiness on the customer because it took so long. So ultimately we developed software used by this client today with us. And that salesperson ultimately is hitting a button on an iPad and is pushing information to my agent so that we cut out all the repeat, all those that we would get right to the support they need. Now, we solved that for the client, very important. It also impacted the customer. But just as importantly, the experience of our agent was night and day. They were happier with the job. It was easier to support the customer. And we were no longer dumping pressure on them to do a better job with a difficult task that was stuck in them because of this situation. So ultimately, it starts with that employee from our perspective, mapping out the experience, what you expect at every touch point of your business, and then measuring and making the adjustments, whether it be technology, people, process, etc., to meet the experience you've set up.
Yeah, very, very similar to how you described the restaurant experience of the dump stuff on the table versus here's your virtual agent or here's your server. Great example. So you both kind of got into a little bit of the science and a little bit of the philosophical aspect. And I know it doesn't say this on the question. I'm going to deviate a little bit if I may. And so, how did you establish your overall philosophy and build it into the culture, which is how did you create, how did you prioritize your initiatives, but how did you build that into your operational modus operandi kind of thing? Do you start first? Sure. That's fine.
Well, I mentioned and alluded to at the beginning, our employees are owners of the company. So that's an easy statement. And we've heard cliches about that, balance, this is real. You come to our business, over time, can earn shares in our company. And we want that. It's good for our business, it's good for our partners, it's good for us. And we built it entirely organically. When you do that, you never roll up, you're not buying companies and buying clients. It's a different feel for your business. And when we converted the company into an employee-owned company, we knew we had to raise the bar even higher. I always thought we did well there, but now it really was incumbent upon us to live up to what that means. So if you walk into the business as an owner of the business, one, you have a voice, right? Two, you're a part of the decision-making process. And we pull people into that. So, for me, when I hear total experience, it completely, really describes how we approach running our business. Right down to we're a very de-layered work structure. I'm the CEO, it's like a traditional org chart. We run the business with a operations committee because we want people's input. We want guidance there. We want their experience in our decisions. So it's a completely different approach to running a business, and it really starts with that business and delivering on our commitments to those employees.
Fantastic. Ali, I'm sure you've got a similar story, but I'm sure there's a story, maybe not with a doctor and a mom, but I'm sure there's a similar story that you can tell us to really illustrate how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, creating and prioritizing total experience initiatives, I think it's about asking hard questions. So, what do I mean by that? I think it's really easy to say, yeah, we do total experience initiatives, right? You could be trying to sell another company and say, hey, we do this, we do that, we have total experience, yada, yada, yada. But it's about asking hard questions. Right? And what is a hard question? Hunter, I'm a stakeholder, I'm going to come to you as the CEO of your company and say, hey, I'm going to take your service level from 80-20 to 90-10. I'm going to reduce your average handle time from 290 to 280. Right? They're going to say, yeah, I want to do that, I want to save money. Right? Any company is going to want to say yes to that. But are you considering the total experience? That's a hard question. Do you want to improve your service levels and drive down your HT, or do you want a better customer experience with a little bit longer average time? Right? That is a hard question. And that is how you kind of create and prioritize total experience initiatives. It's asking hard questions. It's working with your partner to understand what your customers and your stakeholders actually want. What are their challenges? What are they trying to achieve? And providing solutions to that. An example of one that we recently did, gas prices are really high right now, right? I filled up my Jeep the other day, I was like, $75, what? Right? And, we partner with a fuel rewards program. They offer like 10 cents off a gallon, right? Give the customer support for that. I love that program. And I'm sure everyone else does. So, for example, you have a PIN, you got to reset it, you got to call customer service, very standard interaction there. We saw average handle time kind of going up, or we weren't happy with the average handle time. The partner wasn't happy, and we looked at asking those hard questions. We said to our partner, "Hey, do you really want to drive down the average handle time, or do you want to improve your customer experience? Do you want to add channels, add queues, which might relax your service level, but give your user a better experience?" And we said, "Yeah, let's look at that." And we created this Drive with Experience program, is what we called it. Branding, company logos, employee swag, that's given, right? But we implemented things like new channels. Hunter was alluding to earlier. New channels, new technology. Instead of doing a call, making simple self-service in the IVR with a PIN reset. Completely changes the customer experience. If you're at the gas pump with your family in the car, you don't want to have to sit on the phone for 5 minutes with customer support. You want to authenticate and reset your PIN within 30 seconds. It's a much better experience, and that is a total experience. So that's how you create and prioritize total experiences. It's asking hard questions and really understanding what your stakeholders want, and that's implementing to them.
Great answers from both of you gentlemen. I'm going to deviate from the script again, if I may, and I want to do a little bit of audience participation, as they call it. They do it in all the great game shows and TV shows and everything. And so, I think the first ask is, don't let me down and ask a question, please. Any key statements, comments, questions from the audience? Just raise your hand, stand up, maybe tell us who you are if you're okay with that, and either make a statement or ask our esteemed panel or myself a question. Anything. Otherwise, I'm going to go and ask the last question, and you really don't want me talking.
Okay, sorry, I have a question.
Excellent.
My name's Scott. We work with BPO for home service industries across the United States. And I wouldn't say that we have an established total experience program, but it is something that we try to manage. But it's managed amongst a bunch of different leaders in different capacities. And one person's total experience may not measure up to everyone else's. So what are some thoughts or ideas that you guys have to launch an effective total experience program?
He's asking a question for you. But that's great. Thank you for asking the question.
And let us know that you're in tune with what we want.
Yeah.
That's good.
I would answer that question with this. When you're launching that total experience program, don't get confused between process maps and a total experience that you're trying to drive through that employee experience. That was one of our initial challenges as people went, oh, we're going to do step 1, 2, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be a better experience. It's not an experience at that point that is connected. You can throw a lot of little improvements in your business out there. They're kind of floating off in the ether, but they're not necessarily connected in a purposeful way to drive a great employee experience. They should be connected. There should be a consistency that you're looking for. So from my perspective, that's number one. You have to first map out the employee experience. Number two, you have to look at the businesses you're supporting. You're in a BPO business. And the challenge in the BPO business is we're not one business doing one thing. I've got clients where I'm completely on their network. I've got clients that are on my network. I have different abilities from a technology perspective sometimes to solve problems. But it does take, once I get them involved, and once my team gets them involved in the discussion and shows them, what we can bring to the table by pulling their processes and their goals and some of the things they're doing from a technology perspective into what we do, they see movement and we get a lot out of that. So that's the second piece. You've got to be a squeaky wheel and you've got to be committed. And that commitment's got to go beyond where we build walls as a BPO. It's got to, as a BPO, you want to go, oh, well, this client I can't do that with. I'm sitting on their switch. I'm using their system of record. It's got to go beyond that. So, and then the last piece for me of the puzzle is the technology. You can't limit yourself from a perspective of communications, solutions, multi-channel. You've got to address all of that. That's what the total experience is, I'm talking about. I'm emphasizing employee experience because we found as we drive that, we drive back to all the other things, end user experience, customer experience, et cetera, multi-channel experience. But at the end of the day, you can have your own approach, but you really have got to have that in mind where you're tying it all together in a consistent fashion. And ultimately, the last piece is how are you measuring it and how do you integrate it in your business. And the final piece, I guess, ultimately is you've got to have an evangelist. You got to have someone who's passionate about it, who owns it, who drives it throughout your organization, and who builds up other evangelists in the company. And for me, that was me. I am passionate about it. It is something I weave into every conversation. That is constantly being reiterated, and it's taken on a life of its own. And we've got some people that are better evangelists than me today, for sure, that are driving great improvements in the employee experience and the overall total experience. So that's how I'm approaching it. That's great.
Ali, I'm sure you've got something to add.
Yeah. As another BPO, I think it's really important to remind yourself that in the grand scheme of things, day to day, you get really mixed into a specific thing or how to implement this technology, but you have to remind yourself, like Hunter alluded to, you need to push it every day. What I mean by push it every day, you really need to remind yourself the customers are what matters, right? Your employees are what matter. Without them, we're nothing, right? So it's really pushing it from the top down, like Hunter said, to remind yourself the employees and the customers are what matter, and how can we improve their experiences to the total experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes left, and I really want to see if we can draw some more things out from you. Either great question there. Another one?
Yeah.
So, as you're the guy, please stand up. As you're the guy asking the questions, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, so what were some of the challenges that you faced getting everyone's buy-in to become that kind of evangelist and push this total experience?
It's an interesting question. As an employee-owned company, it just makes sense, right? For how we're approaching it. But she made a great statement. The statement, I believe, what he did. The statement was, look, my strategy only has to be 80%. It's the execution that I got to drive 100% in our business. Another way is, and I use this all the time when I'm talking to people, think about GPS. I get in my car, I flip on the GPS where I'm going, and I follow it. It can drive me right off a cliff. I just follow it. My wife gets in the car, and she argues with the GPS, and she wants to go the other way. And, We can sit there, I make a lot of fun of her. But at the end of the day, we both get to where we're going. Okay, different paths, different ways. So your approach to the experience could be different. But so your strategy could be slightly different. It's your execution that has to be perfect. You have to have that expectation of your team, and you've got to set up the routines in your business and the inspection points, all those things that make it a part of every day. So that when you're not there, and a supervisor's at a team meeting, they're thinking about it. You must line up.
Great analogy. Any other final questions before we end? And you're allowed a third if you want. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Patrice Day, first time I'm back in Texas. I was sort of tie into that. How did you, this argument is a big question, go back. How did you manage that process of the change? And you call it a culture defining. I mean, was it like a major shift before and after?
Not so much before and after, but it's culture defining because now it permeates every decision. Because we have an employee experience map. So if you want to implement a process, technology, whatever it may be, it has to line up with the employee experience map. That's what I mean by defining. So now it's a part of just every decision. And believe me, we're measuring it live. There's some dashboards, there's all the things that we all utilize, but we're looking at it, we're seeing those implementations, and we talk about it, we challenge each other on it because it's important. And it's a worthwhile discussion.
Well, and back to the original question too, I think it's about asking the hard questions, right? Do your stakeholders actually know what your employees are challenged with? Do they actually know what your customers want, right? And you can take that back to the business, back to the CEO and say, hey, we know what they want, what their challenges are. This is how we can solve those challenges. Because, like we were referring to in the first question, your customer at the end of the day has the ability to go to another company like that. And if you don't solve those challenges proactively, you're dead in the bottom.
Right. Very much. Okay. So, first of all, thank you to our audience. A great big thank you to Hunter from ACT, Ali from DATAMARK for being bold enough and brave enough to come up here and answer your questions and give us your views. Everybody in the audience, thank you so much for your attention. There are people giving you helpful giveaways. I'm going to dangle mine, as they say. There are, inside, I'm told, I'm not going to open it, a very helpful tote bag to carry around your various goods and chattels, and also, advertise Avaya, of course, which is always worth it. If you want to stay longer I'm going to volunteer the gents to chat to the gents, that's good. If you go out the door, slightly to your right, or slightly to your left, you'll see the Avaya booth, and there are any number of people who are absolutely dying to talk to you about product solutions, about the total experience. There is another session starting in this theatre at the top of the hour, high noon, and so you're welcome to sit and stay, you're welcome to go away and come back, but I'd like to add my thanks and congratulations to the gents. You, our audience, gain something from or at least to Ali's point, start asking those hard questions. And to Hunter's point, it's not just the process, it's how you execute it, how you deliver it. And if Hunter ever owns a restaurant, go. So, please hang around. You will get kicked out at the top of the hour, but again, thank you so much for